from the Xfinity Studios at WVON. We're your original social media. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective with Linnell Harris on 1690, The Talk of Chicago.
Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dream. It's like now. Inspirational perspective. Open your mind to better life. It's time to live. Let's find your purpose now. Inspirational perspective. Let's slay your goals, let your greatness flow with inspirational perspective.
Good morning, Chicago. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linnell Harris, your very own life coach right here on WVON, 1690 AM, The Talk of Chicago. Inspirational Perspective on your radio is all about murdering mediocrity and living the best life possible. So as I ask you every Sunday morning, are you living the best life possible? And this is the place to be to explore that possibility. Well, good Sunday morning, everyone. I'm excited to be back in the studio this morning. And even more excited to complete the conversation that we started last week involving the 7 steps to creating a loving, healthy, long-lasting relationship. I'm excited about that. We covered a lot last week. As a matter of fact, throughout the month of February, we've been talking a whole lot of love and a lot of great feedback from you all. Thank you for the notes, the emails, etc., the comments, both on the streaming, the live streaming on Facebook. You can go to Facebook at Coach Linnell Harris and check out the live stream, and on YouTube. And so appreciate you all. And more than anything, as always, I mean, this is designed to help and support. And so that's ultimately what I'm looking to do, is to support and help as best as I can. But let me say this. Relationships, it's popular. It's a popular conversation. But the work, man, the work. And this conversation is really the setup for the work. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation following the top 5 mistakes we made in marriage. Again, if you haven't heard that conversation, be sure to go check it out on the Facebook page, Coach Linnell Harris, and also on YouTube at Linnell Harris. But let's run over real quick the conversation that we've been in when it comes to 7 steps. Because we covered the first 3 steps last week, as you guys know. And by the way, if what we talked about last week made a difference for you, make sure that your friends, loved ones, they're listening. Shoot them a text. If you're on Facebook, share the stream. And make sure they're listening so they can be a part of this conversation. All right, so we talked about relationship. And I distinguished the difference, at least here in the United States, of what's happening in relationship when you think about marriage, when you think about relationship, right? A lot of us may not be married, but we may be in what we can consider incredibly serious, committed relationship. And I talked about how the numbers have gone up in terms of those of us who cohabitate. As as recently as 2007, we talked about the reasons why, typically economic reasons. One of the things we haven't talked about, and this is not part of one of the steps, but how economics impact relationship. And maybe in the future, we could talk about how that works. But man, there's so many moving parts. To come up with just 7 steps is difficult. But these are the steps that I identify because I believe that this is more the self work, the things that you must do to be incredibly clear about what you want to create in a relationship. Now, got an email. Hey, if I'm in relationship, do these steps still apply? And I would say absolutely. If you want to enhance that relationship, these steps still do apply. Because if you remember, if we just run through these steps real quick, step number 1 was know who you are and love who you are. Now, if you're in a relationship and there's opportunity there, and by the way, I believe that there are always opportunity in the realm of self-love for all of us. And so then that's something you can do. As a matter of fact, I got one email in particular that said, I love myself, something like that, right? And so I feel like I got step 1 down. And when I heard the other steps, I got those down. What's going on? And my reply was, if you feel like you got step 1 down, you probably aren't aware enough. Because there's always another level. And let me give you an example. I'm going to give you some client examples, clients I've had in the past, who said something similar when it came to I love myself, right? Because I think sometimes we get this thing kind of twisted. I love myself, right? So there are people out there when you have that conversation who clearly can articulate and say, you know what? I got some work to do. I need to step it up when it comes to the self-love game. And they can see it clearly. The awareness is there. They're doing the work. Then there's another group. And by the way, I was a part of this group. And so for those of you in the group, don't get mad at me because I was a part of this group at one point. Where when you get into a conversation of self-love and in any way you insinuate that there's work to do, they get angry. Like, you don't know me. I love myself, right? And they'll get into that conversation. They'll tell you all the reasons they love themselves. Let me give you some examples of where the cracks may be if you're one of those people, right? Because I was there. Here's where the crack may be. I'll give you an example. I had one client who was in love with themselves, quote unquote. However, they were on, and again, no shade, just an example, but they were on blood pressure medication. They could not control their diet, high sugar intake, trying to lose weight, not overweight, but just trying to get to like their preferred place and did not have the discipline to do that. Very often, would be sleep deprived from staying up too late watching television. But this is the same person that loves themselves. And what happens is, I believe sometimes we get taking care of our outward appearance as loving ourselves. Like making sure I look put together as loving myself. That's not self-love. Okay, that might be an element of it, but it's not complete and total self-love. All right? And if I'm not willing to take care of myself to the best of my ability and knowledge, that's a breach in self-love. So if my diet is out of integrity, that's a breach in self-love. Okay? If my health is out of integrity, that's a breach in self-love. Like, all of those are breaches in self-love. And I just want to be really clear, because sometimes as I'm going through these steps, I think maybe what's happening, people are saying, check, I got that, check, I got that, versus asking themselves, well, what more ground can I take? And this is a self-development conversation. It's not about checking the box on what you believe you have. It's about looking for what ground you can take. Okay, and again, I was in that category. I remember years ago, my master coach, when I was going through my coaching certification, got basically insinuated that I didn't love myself the way I thought I did. I got angry. You don't know me. You don't know me, and you don't know my self-love. Well, about a year later, much more knowledge later, I realized and saw what she was pointing to, and she was absolutely 100% correct. And the journey I've been on since then, about a decade ago, since then, has revealed to me the levels of self-love I needed to attain, and I'm very clear that there's more to go. This is a lifelong journey, you guys. Lifelong journey. And so keep that in mind. But there is, I believe, a place where you need to be when it comes to involving someone else in relationships. So I wanted to say that about step number 1, and then we can keep going. All right. So know who you are and love who you are. And knowing who you are goes right into step number 2, because step number 2 was know and live your life's purpose. All right. And the only way you can truly be fully connected to who it is that you are on the planet, your identity is completely intertwined with your life's purpose. All right. Again, it's interesting. Somebody sent me something to take a look at in terms of identity and comparison. And they were like, oh, you're going to love this. But basically, the article was talking about how we often compare ourselves with other people because we lack identity through purpose. And when I have identity through my purpose, I begin to realize how unique I am based on my passions, based on my talents, based on my strengths, based on the roles that I play in life. I begin to see how unique and how special I am. So then I begin to play my game and not a holistic game based on what I see other people doing, right? I'm playing my game based on my purpose, based on my identity, based on my talents, which means I'm not constantly comparing myself to other people. Man, this is incredibly important when it comes to being with someone that's secure. All right, because I'm not going through, oh, you don't want to date somebody who's insecure. You don't want to date somebody like this. That's not what I'm talking about here. But there are many of us who have sabotaged relationships because we were not secure in the relationship. One of the reasons we were not secure in the relationship is because we continually compared ourselves. One of the reasons we compare ourselves is because we lack identity. And we lack identity because we don't really truly know who we are. Because if I knew who I was, if I knew how powerful I was, if I really understood that I'm a child of God, if I really understood I had the Spirit of God in me, there would be no reason to compare myself, because I would be so interested in that connection that I would be constantly focused inward, so that way I could express my purpose outward. Then I don't have time for comparison. All right, so I think we're clear there, and we understand why number 2 and number 1 are so important. We talked about them in detail last week. Those are just points that I didn't cover that I thought was incredibly important. All right, then we talked about step number 3. And step number 3 was know your vision for your future. Now, when I have adequate love for myself and I know who I am, I know my purpose, then from the place of purpose, right? And the reason I say then is because many of us are on paths because we're not aligned with our purpose that we should not be on. And one of the things I talked about last week in particular, in terms of being on the wrong path, is that many of us get in relationship with someone else hoping that they will provide some level of guidance. And your purpose is your guidance, not your significant other, right? You still need to look to the Creator for guidance. But what happens is many of us, right? Many of us, we will get caught up in allowing or believing that the person that we're with is responsible for leading us even when they're lost. And then we get upset that they're lost, even though we've been lost, right? It's not like they took you off somewhere that, off the road, because you were already off the road when you found them. But we get upset that they're lost, I'm lost, and that becomes a significant relationship issue. All right? And again, I'm speaking to my men. This is why, brothers, it is so important. Not only do you know who you are, but you understand your life's purpose. Because your entire family is following you. And if you're not leading them aligned with your life's purpose and the Creator's design for your life, you are leading your entire family astray. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal. All right? Okay. So, again, these are the first three that we covered last week. And today we're going to get into the remaining four. The 7 steps. The 7 steps for creating a healthy, loving, long-lasting relationship. Okay, what's number 4? Well, number 4 is one of my favorites. All right. And I'm going to spend some time here. I was asking myself, like, man, should I wait to the top of the hour to cover number 4? But I got to do this in order, because there is an order to this. All right. There is an order. I'm actually doing this in the order of the steps I believe you should take to get where you want to go when it comes to a healthy, loving, long-lasting relationship. All right. So love yourself first. Know who you are. Know your purpose. Then know your vision based on the purpose. Where am I going? What's my destination? It's very clear in my head. I know where I'm headed. So that way, if someone else is on a different path and we happen to cross paths, I don't abandon my path to go on their path and then a few years later blame them for the results of my life, or blame them for misleading me when actually I shouldn't have been with them. But it should have been just a casual interaction because it was clear we both had 2 different visions. You must have a vision for your life. Okay, now, number 4. This is going to seem, when I say it, it's going to seem fundamental. But stick with me, because it goes deeper than the fundamentals of what you're going to hear. All right, let me just preface it with that, because it's going to sound fundamental, like, well, of course, all right. But it's deeper, and many of us are not, as fundamental as this sounds, many of us are not doing this work. Number 4, know what you want in a woman or a man. Be stubbornly intentional. Be intentional. Okay, now that seems simple at a glance, but let's dive into this one. I'm gonna spend some time here. Know what you want in a woman or a man. All right, now where do I start here? Okay, let's go here. Whenever I have a client who is looking to get in relationship, one of the first things after we go through the first 4 steps, because, let's not have a conversation about being in relationship if you're not aware that, there's a gap to close in self-love, right? If you're not clear on who you are and if you don't know your purpose. Now, anybody that works with me, once they have those things, we're going to begin to craft a vision. And now you know your vision. So you want to be in relationship. All right, what exactly do you want out of a relationship? So what I tell my clients is this. Well, let's create what I call conditions of satisfaction. And by the way, conditions, this whole idea of conditions of satisfaction is something that can be used not just in relationship. It can be used in business partnerships. It can be used in buying a car. It can be used in looking for a home. Like conditions of satisfaction, like keep this term in mind, because this is a term that one you can use in a tool that you can use in terms of really clearly identifying what you want in your life. Okay, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a home, whether it's a spouse. All right, but we're in this case, we're looking through the context in the eyes of a spouse. Okay? And when you create conditions of satisfaction, there are two ways that you need to think about this. The first is, what are my non-negotiables? What are my non-negotiables? What do I mean by non-negotiables? These are the things that if I'm going to be in relationship with this person, they must absolutely possess. If they do not possess it, they do not qualify. Let me say it again. All right? Your non-negotiable conditions of satisfaction. Remember, there are two. I'm just covering the first part of the conditions of satisfaction. Your non-negotiable conditions of satisfaction. When you think about this, these are the things that the person must have. All right. So ladies, what this means is if you have non-negotiable conditions of satisfactions, right? And let's say you have 4, and this man does not meet one of them. However, he's handsome. He's got a great job. He lives in a great home, and he drives an incredibly nice car. He does not meet your conditions of satisfaction because he is missing one of your non-negotiables. He does not meet your conditions of satisfaction, which means in the dating process, you should, if indeed you are listening to this and you plan to actually pay attention to this in your relationship journey, you should keep it moving. You say, well, Linnell, good men are hard to find. Shouldn't I in some way compromise? Not if it's a non-negotiable. All right, so then what are non-negotiables, you might ask? A non-negotiable condition of satisfaction is something that this person must have, or quality this person must have. Let me give you an example. Before I give you an example, let me talk about the second, so that way we have full context. The second part of your conditions of satisfaction are your conditional standards. All right. Now, what might a conditional standard be? A conditional standard is something that you prefer, something that you do like, but if they don't have it, you may still be in the conversation, but they have to have most of them. Okay? They need to have most of them. And what I typically say is they need to have about 80%, because unfortunately, you're not always going to get 100% of everything you want. All right? And let me be really clear here. I love my wife. My wife knows I love her. But when it came to my conditions of satisfaction, she met all of my non-negotiable conditions of satisfaction. She did not meet 100% of my conditional standards. Okay? Now, as we've grown in relationship, she has begun to hit them, and the percentage grows much, much higher. And that's a result of the fact that we love one another and we're willing to make compromise for one another. But it was built on something that was already incredibly solid. Okay? And even if she didn't do those things, I would still want to be in relationship with her. So let me give you some examples of what I mean. What's the difference between a non-negotiable condition of satisfaction and a conditional standard? All right? And just listen to me closely, because this is really important. This will change your life when it comes to selecting a spouse or a person you're in relationship with. A non-negotiable is something that you absolutely must have. So let me tell you one of mine. When I was in the dating process and I got serious about being in relationship, One of mine was that this person had to believe in God, okay? But not just believe in God, but have an active relationship with the Creator. There had to be someone that believed in prayer and the ability to get a prayer through. That was just one of my non-negotiables. My non-negotiable. So, what did this look like in process? When I was on the dating scene, if I went out with a young lady, and by the way, typically I tried to get to this non-negotiable before we even went out. It's not always possible, but for the most part, before we went out. And how did I do that? Typically, you get the phone number in my mouth. I happen to meet the young lady. Man, I'd like to get to know you better. Man, can I have your phone number or your email address? By the way, gentlemen, let me just give you a little something here. A phone number is incredibly intimate, especially when a woman doesn't know you. By the way, this is to the men. Just check this out. Take some of this game for some of you young brothers out there. All right? I wasn't always married, and I like to be good at whatever I'm doing. So when I was in the dating process, I considered myself pretty good. All right? So just hear me out. I'll give you some game, brothers, single brothers. A phone number is incredibly intimate, all right? And if a woman doesn't know you and she refuses to give you her phone number, you can't get in your feelings, man. Like, that's immediate access to her. That's immediate access. If you are truly interested and you believe that you have a chance, instead, ask for her email address. Hey, sis, I get it. And I understand that the phone number is a big deal. Man, maybe you wouldn't mind giving me your email address, and we can start off via email. I'm going to tell you something. When I was dating, that line always worked, and I would walk away with an email address. And then I could build on something. I would send the email. It was phenomenal to meet you, etc., etc. Then you're on your own, all right? Because if you can't write, you can't spell, you got work to do. All right, but that's just something to the brothers. Okay, so anyway, when I'm talking about these non-negotiables, right? My non-negotiable was the woman had to believe in God, had to believe in prayer, and had to have a relationship with the Creator. And so what I would try to do is on the phone, get a sense of where she was in her relationship with God. And so I might bring it up and be like, you go to church, or, how'd you grow up? Did you grow up in church? We get into the conversation, but I couldn't always get to it. So eventually be like, oh, I got to run. I'm like, oh, well, look, let me take you out Friday. I'm like, all right. But I'm still, and ladies, listen to me, I'm still fully focused on my non-negotiables, because I do not want to waste my time with someone who does not fall into what I want in relationship. Again, number 4 is know what you want in a woman or a man. Let me be clear about something. Almost all of us are going to have, as one of our conditional standards or non-negotiables, we're attracted to them. All right? So just because you're attracted to them should not mean that you want them. Let me say that again. Because, man, we live in a world that the eyes have grown to have way too much power. Way too much power. Okay? Just because you like what you see doesn't mean they qualify. Okay? Just because he or she look good to you. All right? Because it moves something inside of you when you look at them like, Whew. I don't know what, you been there before? You like, woo. Man, him just walking by, or her just walking by just took the breath out of me. You get calling on the Lord, all that, woo. That don't mean that you want them. All right? And some of y'all know that because you had that feeling a year ago, 2 years ago, and now when you look at them, it's nothing but contempt. I don't even know how I ended up in this. Because what you saw didn't mean that you wanted them. It goes so much deeper. All right, so non-negotiable, right? Maybe your non-negotiable is that they look good. Check, check. All right, that's handled. Now, if it's something else, you got to get there. For me, that was a big one. Did they have a relationship with the Creator? Right? That was big for me. So now I'm looking to see. I'll keep it real with you. I remember going out on one date before I met Pam. And I'm on the date, and I tried to see where they were in terms of, their connection to God. And so then I overtly asked, hey, so I got to know, because I think we might have been on the second date, and she had done a good job, like kind of navigating conversations. So it was very difficult. I had to get direct. Do you believe in God? She looked me square in my face and said, no. It's like, wow. Now, she met a whole lot of my conditional standards. Over 80%. Second date, I had been checking them off. She met most of my non-negotiables. But when she said she did not believe in God, that was a non-negotiable. In my mind, even though I was attracted, the date was over. The date was over. Because I am dating seriously to find my wife. I don't have time to waste. Okay, yeah, you look good. Okay, yeah, you smell good. Okay, yeah, you're incredibly educated. Okay, yeah, you make great money. Okay, yeah, you're physically fit. Okay, yeah, you take care of yourself and your body. I could keep going down the list of different things. Matter of fact, I got some of them here. Okay, yeah, you seem to be compassionate. Okay, yeah, you seem to be loyal and supportive. Okay, yeah, you like theater and music. Okay, yeah, you seem to be centered and financially reliable. Okay, yeah, you're kind. Okay, yeah, you seem broad-minded, right? These are things that I cared about. But you don't believe in God. Date over. Now, I didn't just get up and walk out. I was still a gentleman. And, I was cordial. I said, well, why don't you believe in God? And we had a conversation about it. But that was the end. As a matter of fact, same young lady, when I was dropping her off, asked me if I wanted to come in. Hey, you want to come in for a minute? Had a nice time. Have some coffee. It was nighttime. Right? You don't meet my non-negotiables. I gotta go. And we're gonna talk about this one later, right? Like operating with integrity, because this is incredibly important. A lot of us have been sidetracked on our relationship journeys because there was just one moment where we had one weakness, and then we got stuck. And we look back and we remember that one moment and that one weakness and how we got stuck. And some of us, we got stuck, like a child came from it, or something else happened. And that's why your integrity, we're going to talk about this later, is so incredibly important when you're going through this process. Okay. So, non-negotiables and conditional standards. Now, whatever you do in this relationship process, let me be clear. Don't go shopping without clarity on what you intend to pick up. Because more than likely, you're going to buy something you didn't really want. All right? Like, think about this in the grand scheme of life, y'all. You go shopping without clarity. You come home with a lot of stuff you didn't even know you was going to come home with. And some of that stuff you thought you wanted, you begin to realize, I really don't want it. And here's the problem in relationship. when you don't want something in the game of life, there are no refunds. Just regrets. Just regrets. And so you can take that shirt back to the store. You can't take that relationship and the years you spent back to the store. Can't get a refund on that. All that's left is regret. I got more on this when we come back, but let me get to the phone lines real quick. Jerry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Remy. How you doing?
I'm well, man.
Man, you know you always got that radio show in town, man. Just because it always keeps you excited about life and about it. I got a couple quick questions this night, dude. Number one, why do people rush into relationships? Number two, why do you have to have a boyfriend, a girlfriend? And number three, why do everybody rush to the bed like that's some important thing, man? Why don't they slow down? Don't you have to have mutual relationship when things are mutually satisfied for you and the other individual in the universe? As opposed to this, I'm going to make it happen and she's so cute. What is that about?
Well,
You don't just keep about all that, right?
is this a rhetorical question? You just trying to
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
All
you
right.
can't get too far. It's like saying, I want to be in a relationship with somebody. Y'all spend all your time in bed. How productive is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you get why it's done, though. I mean, we all know why that's done.
Well, it's a tradition, or is it just a mistake? Because
Look, man,
if you have
let
a
me
productive relationship.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you why I did it. I can't speak for anybody else.
Okay.
I did it because it helped distract me from the pain. It helped me overlook my trauma. I did it because just for that moment, while we're new, we don't know each other, the euphoria, the excitement of, wow, we're making love for the first time, right? And the excitement of waking up the next day with this person, or, by the way, the lack thereof, because a lot of brothers know what I'm talking about. You wake up and you like, oh, how I get up out of here? And how fast how can I get up out of here?
And one last thing, you brought up this point about the idea of how people do what they do in a relationship. You're supposed to be checking out how you connect with that individual. You all should be able to grow together.
Well,
or be on the same wavelength where it's some sort of mutual growth. Right?
But it's not. Here's the thing. What I'm sharing today is not common knowledge. It's not what's taught. That's not what's being played out in the sitcoms, in the movies. And
Exactly.
and we do what we see. In the movies, man, somebody goes out, they meet somebody, next thing you know, there's a passionate love scene, and they end up together. It works out. It works out, bro.
But this is the last question. You said that it's very important to have like what you prefer. I had a friend, she said she wanted a man who had a personal relationship with God. Not just somebody who just met him.
Yeah.
But already knew him. That is key, like you're saying, in terms of choosing people that are on the path that you're on. If not, how's it gonna work out with y'all going two different directions?
Yeah, and that's why I'm in the conversation, brother. I appreciate you for listening. Good stuff. Freddie, we got about 60 seconds before we go to break, brother. Good morning.
All right, how you doing, Lana? Good, great topic. That's one of the main things. You have to love yourself and love God. One of the things you must love yourself and take care of yourself and must be healthy. And two things. One of my things is real strictly, a person must be out of a relationship within a year, because a lot of things they clear themselves out. And that I don't deal with a woman that say that they separated, because you really don't know who you are. Yeah. You can't be separated. Either you be with your man or you're not. Because I can't waste my time with somebody that's still involved with somebody else.
Yeah.
You know? And so those two things, those two my main things. You must be out of a relationship within a year, because they give you time to know yourself. And you say separated, nah, I can't deal with that. Got it. And Freddie, you single or he off? He gone. I think Freddie's single. For them sisters out there, he got his head on. I'm just saying. All right. Freddie be on top of his game. I'm just saying. Okay, so anyway, hey, we got more when we come back. We've been talking the 7 steps to creating a healthy, loving, long-lasting relationship. We're on step number 4. Step number 4, know what you want. Know what you want in a woman or a man. Be intentional and don't cheat yourself.
We'll be right back with 5, 6, and 7 after these messages. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linnell Harris, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. All right.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help.
So
with
if you're a
dogs
Slay Your
and reading.
Goals member,
How
this
can I
ain't
help my daughter with her
like
reading?
this is not new to you.
Information
Uh-oh,
on
give me
hot
one
water
second.
heating.
No. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out the words.
World music playing track now.
All right. So if you're a Slay Your Goals member or a client or former client, none of this is like this is review. Hopefully really good review if you're still, in a relationship process. But this is review. I'm curious, what questions do you guys have? And by the way, if this resonates, right, and you believe somebody could really benefit from this, I'm going to ask you, go ahead and share the stream and let them know, hey, do you know what you want in relationship? Like you can make that the share topic. Like, do you really know what you want in relationship? If not, check this out, right? But let's check real quick to see just what we have going on here, okay, in terms of questions. If you have a question, please go ahead and share it. If you asked the question already, share it again right here in the comments, so I can, it's a lot of comments already, so difficult for me to get through every last one of them. And so share it again in the comments here. Here's a good question. Bell, do guys care that a woman makes good money or just financially responsible? I think it depends on the man. I'll tell you that I had financially responsible and fiscally sensitive as conditional standards for myself. What I didn't require was for them to have all the money, everything figured out, a loft, brand new car. I didn't care about that. I just wanted to know they had fundamentally something that I could work with, because I knew what I brought to the table, and I don't mind taking care of my family. If that woman if she had the non-negotiables as well as the conditional standards that mattered to me. And so, for me, that's what mattered. Now, it depends on the person. Somebody might want their spouse to, match them economically. I didn't care about that. Pam was doing well for herself when I met her. And so that was an added bonus. But it wasn't for me like a necessity. Like if, let's say Pam was struggling financially, it wouldn't have, because she had all the other qualities, that wouldn't have mattered. I would have said, okay, what's going on? Let's take a look at what's going on and put a plan together. Let's put a plan together. And because she met the other conditional standards, enjoys personal development, wants to grow, then she's down for the plan, and then we can change that situation. Lucky for me, she, was handling her business. So I think it's a personal preference, right? In terms of what people want. When it comes to that. Now, again, I think it's the same way for sisters out there. Do you want him to economically match you, make the same thing more than you? You get to say, right? That could be one of your conditional standards or one of your non-negotiables. It's up to you. But if you say, I don't care, then just have a process for, if you do want him to be somewhere, you want to be, straight and overt about it. Like, hey, I see you're not financially well off, and that does I'll date you because that's not my leading thing, but I do want that to change. So I would tell them. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. let's see. How to discern when someone has a relationship with God and is not just worshiping a religion or pastor. When somebody has a relationship with God, let me give you another example. Hopefully Pam don't kill me. When Pam and I met, I'm not going to get into the specifics, but we had, like, in some ways, in terms of, I don't even know the best way to say this without just saying it. She was going to a church at the time. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Well, what's your connection there? And then I asked her if she'd be interested in gaining a deeper personal connection with God, and would she make a shift if that was available? Her answer was yes. And that told me that's what, like, the connection is what mattered. Pam's like, oh, I'm listening. But that told me that it's the connection that mattered to her more than, like, the social gathering or all those kind of things, right? And so that's one way. That's one way to know, Clarence. You gotta ask questions, man. And that's the part of getting to know somebody. That's a really good question. All right, Pat. Can wanting someone to enjoy dancing be a non-negotiable? Pat, only you know. Like, if you love dancing, here's what I would say. A non-negotiable is something that is incredibly important to you. Okay? So this is something that will shift and change your life. So then the question I would ask you, Pat, is, do you dance every day? Right? If you don't dance every day, do you dance at least once a week? And do you have a standing dance appointment that you would want that person to be a part of? If the answer is no, and you're like, oh, I dance once a quarter, I wouldn't make it a non-negotiable. I would make it a conditional standard. Because if that person doesn't like dancing, it's not going to impact your life the way you think it would, right? But if you dance every day, or you dance every week, or you own a dancing studio and this person dancing is a big deal to you, then maybe it should be a non-negotiable. Again, this gets very personal. All right, so you just got to ask yourself more questions as to whether or not it matters that much. And then be careful basing things on a previous relationship. I see here you said, my last relationship, we never danced, and it bothered me tremendously. The next one might dance sometimes, and it might not bother you. And it might be more that bother you about that person than just to not dance. All right, we're coming back.
The views expressed on our programs are not necessarily those of WVON, Midway Broadcasting Corporation, or our participating sponsors.
If you wanna be about it, come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Play your goals, live out your dream. Your best right now. Inspirational perspective. Open your mind to a better life. It's time to live the dream. Your purpose now. Inspirational perspective. Let's slay your goals, let your greatness flow with inspirational perspective.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host and life coach, Linnell Harris, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. Well, we've been talking the 7 steps to creating a healthy, loving, long-lasting relationship. Some great questions from the Facebook audience over the break. One of them I want to bring back to the surface because I think this is something that would really help us understand and kind of go deeper into this whole conversation about non-negotiables and conditional standards, because we've already covered 4 of the steps. Step number 1 is know who you are, love who you are. Step number 2 is know your life's purpose. Step number 3 is know your life's vision. Step number 4 is know what you want in a woman or a man. Be intentional. Then we talked about having clear conditions of satisfaction for the person I'm in relationship with as I'm going through the dating process. And part of having clear conditions of satisfaction is breaking that down into 2 different categories. One category is your non-negotiables, right? The things they absolutely must have. By the way, this category should be short. Otherwise, you'll find yourself lonely. Right? So this should be the things that really, 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 really matter. Okay? Not, he drives a luxury car, or he drives a truck, not a sedan. You don't want to make that a non-negotiable. You might miss out on your blessing. I'm just saying. Okay? But you could make it a conditional standard if that's, if you care about that. Again, I wouldn't make material things a conditional standard on a personal level, but maybe that's important to you. And again, this is a personal thing. So non-negotiable and conditional standards. And one of the questions I got was, can wanting someone to enjoy dancing be a non-negotiable? And my answer to that was, if you make it a non-negotiable, you want it to be something that you really, truly enjoy and you do it often. Let me give you an example of what I mean. I'm gonna make it personal. So one of my non-negotiables is someone who is willing to travel. All right, like you got to be willing to travel. You got to be willing to travel the world. It wouldn't work for me to be married to a woman who hated travel. It just that wouldn't work because I love travel so much. And so thank God my wife loves travel. That's why she's my wife. However, I had a conditional standard that I preferred for the woman I was with to be a scuba diver, so we could scuba dive together. My wife was like, I ain't going. Okay? Well, it's a conditional standard. And so when I said Pam didn't meet 100%, that's because I had things I did desire down. But I scuba dive once or twice a year, folks. That's not going to make or break my relationship. And I would like for her to go, but I do it once or twice a year. And so if Pam's like, look, man, go scuba diving, me and Legend will be home, then I'm going to go scuba diving. And it doesn't impact the relationship. Okay? It was a conditional standard, something nice to have, but I didn't have to have it. I would not want to make scuba diving a non-negotiable. I mean, how many women would I be crossing off the list? Right? And so, we want to be reasonable with this. Okay. So, number 4, know what you want in a woman. Now, a few more things. Know what you want in a woman or man. Be intentional. A few more things about this before we move on to number 5. Here's the deal, okay? What you permit, you promote, okay? If there's something that you permit in relationship, you're getting, and you're like, okay, that goes, it's almost like promote, like what you permit, you promote. Keep that in mind. So you want to be very clear, especially early on, in terms of what matters to you. Have conversations about it. Ask questions about it so you can figure out if this is the right one. And I firmly believe all of that can be done in the dating process. You do not make a person your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your significant other in a committed relationship if you don't know the answers to whether or not they truly have what you want in a relationship. You just don't. You keep dating until you know. And if you realize they don't have it, you move on. If you realize they do have it, you do what I did. I asked Pam to be in a committed relationship with me. I did that in 2 months, you all. The reason I could do it so quickly, women listen to this, is because I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted. And once I realized she had what I wanted, and I was willing to forego the other things that I wanted, but, maybe she didn't have, like she wasn't a scuba diver, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, Pam has well over 80% of my conditional standards. She meets all my non-negotiables. I absolutely adore her. I'm beginning to have feelings for her. I want to be in a relationship with her. Because I had indicators at that point that this is a relationship that would likely work. Okay. Prior to meeting my wife, okay, I had entered into a mindset where I knew I wanted to get married. I also knew I needed to get married. Sisters, one of your non-negotiables should be a man that wants to be married. And a man knows if he wants to be married. All right. Now, if you don't want to be married, this is not for you. But if you want to be married, there's nothing wrong with asking, why are you in the dating process? Are you looking for a wife or are you looking for a good time? An honest man will tell you either way. Okay. A dishonest man, you will know, because he won't be able to look you in your eye when he says it. If he's like, oh yeah, I'm ready to get married. You know what I'm saying? It's that time for me. He looking all over the place. I would say, tell me, not the table. See if that man can look you in the eye and say, yes, I'm ready to get married and I'm looking for my wife. Because if he can't, you might want to keep it moving. Okay. Now, I was in my mid-30s when I began looking at, being serious in relationship. And I was like, all right, it's time for me to get married. When I didn't want to be married, I said it. I ain't ready. Okay. Now, I recall a lot of women that got in relationship with me, a few women that got in relationship with me. Even when I said I ain't ready to get married, I'd be in a relationship, but I ain't ready to get married. So then we get in a relationship. And then 2 years later, they'd be like, so what's up now? And I'd be like, what do you mean, what's up now? Well, you ready to get married? No, I told you I wasn't ready to get married. Well, I'm ready to get married. Okay, well, you ready. I'm not. Sisters, don't set yourselves up. All right? If the man don't want to be married and you ready to be married, believe him. 2 + 2 = 4. You're not going to make it 3 and you're not going to make it 5. This process here, let me tell you. So I've coached a lot of women through this process and a few men. And I don't necessarily have, I hate to say it, I'm just saying this is my experience, okay, you guys? So don't go, taking me to the bank on this. This is just my experience. Most of the men who I coach this process adhere to their conditions of satisfaction. All right? They adhere to them. They stick with it. They ask the questions and they find the woman that meets their conditions of satisfaction. But sisters, something happens in your process. And I don't know if these brothers got game that I don't know about, but I've had a lot of clients, a lot of people I know who I've talked about this process with, step out of their personal integrity. And when it comes to, this is why I'm spending time here, when it comes to their conditions of satisfaction. They saw that this guy did not line up with what they really wanted. But they continued down the process of dating him. If you are seriously ready to be in relationship, and matter of fact, I probably could just move to the next point because this is going to help round it out. But if you're seriously ready to be in relationship, you have to conduct yourself and hold yourself accountable to that. Meaning, if he don't got what you're looking for, move on. Move on. So, that leads me to number 5. Declare what you intend to create. All right? And for this purpose, I might mix these up over the next 40 minutes, you guys. Because let me just tell you what number 6 is. Number 6 is affirm what you intend to create. All right. And then number 7 is date and marry with integrity. So I'm about to blend these together in some capacity. Okay. So now you know all 7. Number 7, date and marry with integrity. Number 6, affirm what you intend to create. And number 5 is declare what you intend to create. Okay. Once you're clear on what you want in a relationship, declare it. When I share my declaration with my friends, I'm like, yo, I'm about to get engaged this year. They were like, man, you crazy, man. Get up out of here. Yeah, you ain't doing nothing. Because they were used to my previous behavior. But things have shifted, right? And I'm like, nope, it's time. It's time for me to get married. In terms of my relationship with God, I see that. I gotta clean some things up. I've cleaned my life up. You guys can see it. And by the end of this year, I will be engaged to the woman that meets my conditions of satisfaction, the woman of my dreams. Now, when I first said this to my coach, it felt a little crazy. But the thing about words is words are powerful, and we create with our words. And so I want to go back to this conditions of satisfaction thing, because one of the questions I've gotten is, Linnell, what do I do? I've dated 3 eligible men, and all of them are great, but they keep hitting my non-negotiables. I feel like that's it when it comes to good men. And it's like, if you say that with your mouth, you're creating that reality with your words. You have got to understand that the person that is for you has already been fixed. Many of us are messing it up. Many of us are not with who we were supposed to be with because we made a bunch of mistakes and we know it. We know it. Okay? Many of us, you are being prepared to be with that person. And maybe you need to go through that dating cycle, that dating disappointment, so that way when you get to him, you know it. For instance, you might have a conditional standard that he's got to have a 6-pack. You've dated 3 men with 6-pack. None of them work because they all hit your non-negotiables. They just don't work. And maybe the one for you got a bit of a belly, but the creator sees, I gotta get her to see that conditional standard she needs to put some, she needs to be able to give up on that conditional standard so she can meet the one. And when she meets the one, she'll teach him how to eat. She'll help him with his health. And then after they're together, he'll get his 6-pack. See, we doing this the wrong way, y'all. We got it backwards. And that's why when you know what you want, you're not always going to get exactly what you want right out the bag, right? As much as I love my wife, she is more of who I want today than she was when I met her. Because that's part of the process. All right? Now, again, when I declare with my words, then I have to be incredibly clear on what I'm saying after that. Ladies, when you say there are no good men, when you say ain't no good brothers out here, you're creating that not in the world, you're creating that in your life. You're creating that in your reality. Because there are plenty of women who are married to good men. And they'll tell you that. They will tell you that. So you get disappointed, you've been on a couple of dates and things ain't going your way and you driving home, you like, oh, this is impossible. There are no good men. You're making that your reality. When you declare with your words what it is you intend to create, you also want to make sure that you're not tearing that thing down with your words, because that puts out an energy. Your words are how you create. Even if you don't believe it, I need you to speak it like you do. I need you to speak it like you believe. Words like, my husband is a king in the making. Right? Maybe right now you're married and you're like, man, you know, I'm married and I believe this is the man God wants me to be with, but he's got some ground to take. Then you declare that ground taken. My husband is a king in the making. Our joy and happiness is around the corner. Right? You got to speak it. But if you're just willing to give up and complain, hey, it takes just as much energy to complain as it does to declare what you intend to create. Many of y'all, let me say it, you haven't run into a good man because your dialogue has been, there are no good men. And so you just living in what you've created. You just living in what you've created. You can't run into one. You can't run into a good man. Brothers, you can't run into a good woman because you're creating no good women with your words. You gotta be careful what we say, man. Here's how you know you're making a powerful declaration. You get scared. You get scared. And you kind of go through this thing where you're like, I can't believe I'm saying this. You feel all types of resistance. My wife told me a story some time ago about a friend of hers who basically said, you know, my husband, he's got a lazy quality. And she said her friend made a decision that she wasn't going to be married to a lazy man no more. And so what she would do was declare over him while he was asleep that he was a man that loved working hard for his family. And Pam went on to tell me how that man transformed. And today is a man that loves working hard for his family. See, we don't realize how much power we have. And so some of y'all sitting up complaining about who he is, reinforcing it with your words, when what you should be is declaring what's next. That's what you should be doing. But we don't understand. And I'm trying to help us understand. When I declared I was going to get married, I felt crazy. I got off the phone with my coach and I kind of started to laugh. Like, what did I just do? And part of the practice that my coach gave me was to call my best friends and let them know of the intention and the declaration I had made to get married. And so then I started taking the actions aligned with my declaration. I called my friends. But not only that, when you make a powerful declaration, hear me out right now. This is important. When you make a powerful declaration like this, you then have to start acting aligned with the declaration. What do I mean by that? If I say I'm going to be, and I did this back in 2013, so I'm not just telling y'all what I think works, you all. This is what worked in my life. So back in 2013, early in the year, when I said, I'm going to be engaged to the love of my life at the end of this year, then I had to look at the reality. Well, you're not acting like a man that's going to be engaged by the end of the year. So how can you begin acting this way to really bring this declaration to life? Because you can say it, but then you have to act it out. Okay? That's where the power is. Acting it out. All right, so I had to make some phone calls. I remember one conversation. I said, look, I don't think that we should continue seeing each other. It's not going in a direction that I want to go now, and I don't see it going in that direction. I appreciate our friendship, companionship, and this is not about you. Oh, that's easy for you. And it was a difficult conversation because it was like, why, Linnell, why are you doing this? And I didn't want to say, well, I declared I was going to be engaged at the end of the year and it's not going to be you. I didn't want to say that, right? So it was like, look, this is the direction I have to go. Incredibly difficult conversation. But I held to it. And I took the actions that I needed to take. Even in my dating, I'm like, look, I'm not looking. Like Jerry called in. He said, hey man, why people, why they, meet up and jump right in bed and all that kind of stuff. Why they do that? And I was like, is your question rhetorical? Because we know why. I mean, we see it on the silver screen. Most of us are trying to live our lives aligned with what we see. That's why we dress the way we dress, carry the bags we carry, drive the way we drive, and that's why we lay the way we lay. So when I got clear, I'm like, okay, now I have to date with integrity. That was difficult because I think my wife is fine, but she ain't the only fine woman in the world. Like let's be real. And so when I was dating, there were other fine folk. And it's like, hey, you wanna come in or no, that's not what I'm on. That took discipline. You have to take the action. This ain't magic. And I just want to be incredibly clear about that. Okay? When you declare, you have to take the action. This is where number 6 comes in. Because then, and I see the phone calls, I'm going to take that. I'm going to take the phone calls towards the end here, you guys. Number 6, you affirm what you intend to create. What do I mean by that? And it's not just verbal affirmation. It has to be actual affirmation. So what we create in relationship happens way before we meet our spouse. And so some of us, we want it to happen, boom, instantaneous. But you might not be ready. You don't even realize you're ready. Let me give you some examples. Your relationship with your friends, your relationship with your family, and how you interact with your coworkers are all indications of who you will be in relationship. Your relationship with what you watch on television, your inputs are also ways that you affirm your goals, and they indicate who you will be in relationship. Watching garbage on television won't support you meeting him or her. Too often, we create internal contradictions to what we want to create externally. You want to be in a relationship. One of the best ways to begin affirming it is living your life as if you are in relationship. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of times we do things that aren't healthy for ourselves and our souls. And then we want to meet our soulmate. Let me say that one more time. A lot of times we're doing things that aren't healthy. You know what I'm talking about. We're doing things that aren't healthy for ourselves and our souls. But at the same time, we out here saying, I want to meet my soulmate. So when you're ready to be in a relationship, you need to start creating inputs that are going to help you affirm that which you intend to create. So now that I've made this declaration, I've affirmed it every day, because there's nothing like forgetting the most important things that you want in your life. And that happens to a lot of people because it's not top of mind. Yesterday, I said I wanted to be in relationship, but then tomorrow I forget. And because I forgot, I conduct myself like I forgot. Maybe right in front of the person I was supposed to be with. And the reason it's not the top of mind is because you're not affirming it every day. Here's the thing. When I created the intention in my mind, when I made the declaration, and I settled in my mind that, hey, I'm moving towards relationship, small things began to change. When I had a single mindset, I come home from work and I just pull right in the garage, hit the button, boom, garage door come open, right in the middle of the garage. Why? It's only me, only one car, only one person living at the house, only me. When I got serious about being in a relationship, I said, well, my woman's gonna need somewhere to park. And so I gotta start practicing parking on one side to leave space for her. Right? She ain't there yet, but my energy has already shifted. And because my energy is shifting, the energy around me is shifting so I can attract her. Boom. Start parking on one side of the garage. See, it's small things, right? Then, again, I'm single. I got married at 38, y'all. I was used to being single. I used to sleep right in the middle of the bed. Right? Big old bed, right in the middle of the bed, pillows all around me. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be in a relationship, she's going to need somewhere to sleep. I probably should choose a side of the bed and sleep on that side of the bed so that way I create the opening for my wife. And so I started sleeping on one side of the bed. And I started moving as if I was in relationship around my home and in my personal matters. I even started thinking about my finances that way. Right? That's when Pam came along, there wasn't nothing I was like embarrassed about. I had already been getting stuff in order. Y'all understand? It's like, well, one day my wife might need to look at this spreadsheet. Let's set it up in a way I can be proud. This is part of the affirmation process. But this also ties into number 7. Date with integrity. Now, I said date and marry with integrity, but let's just talk about dating with integrity. Whenever you want to create something powerful, you're going to be tested. You're going to be tested. I'm gonna give you a real life example. And Pam knows the story, so I know she won't mind me sharing. So the night I took my wife out when we were dating to create our committed relationship, we went out to eat downtown, beautiful restaurant on Wacker next to the river. And at the restaurant, she's like, "What's wrong with you?" Right? And I'm like, "No, I'm good. She's like, "What's wrong?" I was nervous because I was about to have that commitment conversation, fellas. You know what I mean? Like, I was a little nervous about to have that commitment conversation. And so, dinner's over and we ordered dessert. And I said, well, let me run to the bathroom real quick. I want to make sure I don't have no spinach in my teeth or, booger up my nose or something. So I run to the bathroom. I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, okay, you got to do this, man. I come back out, I sit down, and I say, look, I like for us to be in a committed relationship. And anybody who knows my wife, you already know. She was like, what you mean? And she wasn't going to make it easy. So I had to continue this to knock it in. I want to be in a committed, will you be in a committed relationship with me? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, long story short, Pam like, you were so nervous. I was nervous. So she agreed that we could be in a committed relationship. And so now she's officially, like we are official. Now, mind you, 2 months, because I knew what I wanted. 2 months, we're in an official relationship. So I drive her home. I drop her off, and I'm like in this euphoric state. Life is good. My woman now, she said yes to being in a committed relationship. She want to be with me. And I drive home. I park on my side of the garage. And as I come out the garage, walking up the side of my house is my ex. I'm like, whoa, this is the same night, y'all. Same night. Whoa, wait a second. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Well, I've been calling you and you don't return my phone calls. And I've been trying to reach out to you and you don't reach out. And I said, well, I told you that I was dating somebody else. She's like, yeah, that's cool, that's fine, whatever. But like I needed to see you and I wanted to talk to you. I said, whoa, well, this is not, I mean, there's nothing really to talk about. No, I think you owe me a conversation at a minimum, given our history. Why don't we go inside and talk? No, we can't go inside. Why can't we go inside, Linnell? Like, no, we can't go inside. We're not doing that. Stop acting like this. I know you're dating somebody. It's no big deal. Like, let's just go inside. Whatever's whatever. We both grown. Ain't nobody trying to tear your stuff up. But you can have a conversation with me. If anything, we can have some closure. Look, no. If you want to have a conversation, let's go sit on the front porch, out in the public. I ain't say out in the public, right? But I'm like, let's go sit on the front porch. I don't want to sit on your front porch. I just start walking to the front of the house. Went, sat on the front porch. And she stood there as I'm sitting on the front porch. The entire time trying to convince me, just open the door. Open the door to your house. Let me in. I'm like, nope. Nope. Not doing it. We're not going. Anything you need to say to me, you can say to me right now. Now I'm saying this because we're talking about dating with integrity. Okay? No, we can do this right now. We talk about what we need to talk about right now. This was a Wednesday night, you all. Okay? She ended up leaving. And that's when I went inside the house. Because I'm like, you are not going inside my house. You're not going inside my house. Okay? That Sunday, Pam and I went to a brunch. Like, this was Wednesday night. That Sunday, Pam and I went to a brunch. I went and picked her up. And she was looking good. I remember the dress she had on, y'all. Man, she was looking good. That's my woman now, right? I could say, meet my girlfriend, Pam, right? I could say that official. By the way, it was official, right? She could say it, I could say it. It was very, very clear for the people listening, especially the ladies. Very, very clear. So we go into the brunch. Guess who was there at the brunch? My ex. Folks, I'm telling you, integrity matters. Like, who can set that up? Like, who can set that up? Right? But because I acted with integrity, right? I was golden. I was good. Look. And later I could tell my wife the entire story. Let me tell you something, man. She wasn't following me. Somebody said she wasn't following me. She was there before we got there. She was already there. Okay? She wasn't following me. Here's my point. Man, when you get into what you believe is a good relationship, don't be stupid. If it was difficult to find and it's the right thing, resistance is going to show up, y'all. All right? It's going to show up. Oh, Pam say, tell them what happened next. She's like, tell them what happened next. So I'll tell you all. Because Pam like, don't So anyway, I went to, because she was there and I had connections, I went to the manager and said, look, man, the person who was running the spot, I said, I need you to know what's going down in here. I don't want no problems. And this is my lady. And I don't want her to be disrespected. I don't want anything to happen that should not happen. And so I put the whole thing on loud. Now, Pam didn't even know what was going on. I stepped away and I had a conversation. And they helped me seal up the whole situation. My point is, and she saw us. She saw both of us, right? And she was cordial and all of that. But if things had gone different that Wednesday night, it wouldn't have went down like that. My point is, we got to date with integrity, man. Now, what is integrity? Because integrity is not always, you know, like we think about, you know, doing the right thing. And like it's integrity is deeper than that. Only you know what you're committed to. Only you know. And your commitment must be based or must be run through with action, must be aligned with your actions. So if I'm committed to being in a relationship, that means I'm taking actions that align with that commitment, and my speaking is aligned as well. My speaking is aligned as well. Since I've been married, I can tell you I have never ever said I am not married. I value my relationship that way. You understand? Like, you married? Yes, I am married. Ring on. I don't even got my ring on today, right? Ring on or not, I am married. So once you get in relationship, if you want to keep it healthy, loving, and long lasting, then you act with personal integrity based on your commitment. You act aligned with that commitment. You speak aligned with that commitment. All right. So those are the 7. Now I'm curious what questions you all have. We've got about 15 minutes. 773-591-1690. 7 steps to creating a healthy, loving, long-lasting relationship. Let me say this before I take the calls. And Anita, I see you up first, and Sel, you next. You're going to be tested. Again, the question is, will you pass the test? And I'm going to tell you all something. Every marriage that ends is not a bad marriage. Sometimes it's due to a lack of integrity. And it's not always infidelity, y'all. It could be integrity with money. It could be integrity with health. It can be integrity in all kinds of different ways. There is no silver bullet for relationships. And what I will tell you is the reason I shared these 7 steps is because I believe at a minimum, this will help you get started on the right foot with your future or current bae. And that's it. All right. 773-591-1690. Anita, good morning. How are you?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, well, I was married and I had 6 children. And my husband was older than I was, so he had been single for a while. We married, we had the kids, and for some reason I think he got a little disgruntled about a lot of things that was happening to him while he was taking care of the family. Well, anyway, we divorced, and I ended up waiting 15 years to find another person because I had children and I did not let men use me because they thought I was desperate, and my kid's dad took care of his children because that's what we agreed to, and I continued to make sure they went to school. Okay, so dating, when I waited 15 years, I married someone that had been married, divorced. He was from Jordan, and he was Muslim like me, and he had 11 children. So I got someone that understood my situation, but then my husband got sick, really, really sick. And I told him, I said, well, if you really feel like you can't be a husband to me and it's bothering you, I said, well, I'll just divorce you and we'll leave it like that, because I knew he had to take care of his kids and I didn't want to make that decision that he would be inconvenienced to me. And it's been rough. American people are not ready for women with big families. I believe in being fruitful and multiply. I did not believe in contraceptives. So my things that I look for in a man are very, very serious. Either you can take care of me or you can't. And now it's even worse. Now I have grandchildren.
Yeah.
So you're looking out for your grandchildren, not just for your children you might have or you already have.
Right.
So, you really do have to stick to it. You cannot play with people because they will play with you. I don't play because my family did not play with telling me, you live for God, these children are for God, and you know what to do to get this for God. And anything outside of that, throw it away. And that's what I do. And you can't believe how many deceptive people come up to me that drink, that are on drugs, trying to look for me, especially younger men, that haven't been married and been out here wandering around with different women. They want to come around and be settled with the nester. And I'm like, no, you should have done something in your life to make your own life comfortable. So I kept my standards, and they need to keep theirs. And if you've been running around for 20 years and not figuring out what you need to do, trust me, people like me do not want you unless you have what the settled men had, or maybe lost their wife because she passed or something like that.
Got it. Well, Anita, thank you for the phone call, and that's clear. I love your clarity on that. Sal, good morning, brother.
Good morning. I wish that I could have called a young cousin of mine down in Florida who is celebrating her 25th birthday today, as announced by her mother. I responded to it by encouraging her to understand she had made a milestone, a quarter of a century.
Yep.
And in her next quarter, she should find somebody for her to become her intimate family. All right, and use her foundation to qualify whoever it is that would be worthy of her spirit. Not just this generic quote, happy birthday, oh, you look so cute, and all that dumb mess. I wanted to say something to her that would really stick to it, and I'm going to find some way to get this show to her.
Yeah. Well, it'll be on YouTube, Sal, and it's also on Facebook. It's on.
You said something about integrity. One of the reasons why I haven't called since the last time I called, because I promised I was going to do something. And that was to get a letter into WVON to be read as a commentator.
That's right.
I haven't done that, and I have been embarrassed about it. It's done, and I haven't moved on it. All right.
You know what, Sal? Don't be embarrassed, man. It's part of the process, brother.
Thank you. Well, it's a part of trying to be real, and this is what I have to bring to the table. And as I pursue my last 25 years, all right, and trying to find me a mate. You asked, one of the non-negotiable characteristics that you look for in a woman is whether or not they believe in God. And if a woman were to ask me that, I would ask her, what is your definition of God? Because I am constantly evolving into defining what God is.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm constantly challenging myself. Do I really believe in God? If I did, I would get my ass up and go walk on some damn water. All right. And I feel as though that I'm falling way short.
Yeah, well, it's a process. You know what I hear in that? There's not a lot of grace. There's not a lot of grace for your humanity. Like, let me take it back to the example of the letter. You made a commitment to yourself. And when you made the commitment on the air, you sounded serious. Now, here's the thing. You took action. You wrote the letter. But now it comes time to actually send the letter in. And I have it, Sal, that part of the resistance is because more than likely, you might get a phone call behind that letter. And that phone
I want it. No, that's not worrying me.
Okay. What's the resistance? Have you distinguished what the resistance is in sending the letter in?
Innate procrastination.
Okay. Well, that procrastination is some level of fear. All procrastination is based in fear.
But then, Lionel, if I may, I show immense courage to the point that I can't say that that's what's really blocking me. I think I show courage. But if I can share with you, in one of the criteria that must be there, I'm looking for a woman who wears clean Fruit of the Looms all the time.
Yeah, well, and that's
I'm not trying to be vulgar with that.
No, I get it, and if that's a non-negotiable or a standard condition for you, then that's something that you got to make sure or figure out the best way you can if that's what's being done. And that's what I mean, and it's also about going to the places where women who are clean are. But hey, Sel, I appreciate the phone call, man. I got to wrap up the show. I appreciate you, brother, and good phone call. Hey, there's a question here that on the Facebook stream from Bell that I want to answer before we close out the show, and that is, why do some guys try to be exclusive or call you their wife on the first or second date? Is that an automatic red flag? Here's the thing, right? I don't know that you can call it a red flag, but I would just ask them, if you're calling me your wife, do you intend to make me your wife? And if so, start showing me right now. Like, hey, don't let no man play with his words. That's all I'm gonna say. If he's like, oh, with me, it's me and you my wife, I'll be very clear with him. I'm not exclusive to you, okay? Because I'm still trying to figure you out. But if you feel like you figured me out enough to be exclusive with me, then lead the way, sir. Okay? And if you feel like I'm your wife, then I can't wait for you to treat me like your wife. And by the way, if he's treating you like his wife, then he's not at the end of the day gonna say, you got your half. There's a lot of that going on now. What is going on with that? Anyway, that's just, you got your half, but I'm your wife? Get out of here. Anyway, here's the thing. Call them on it. And be clear about your exclusivity. Because a lot of times men do that so you begin to act exclusive with them. They want to cut off your options. And so the other part of my answer is, it's game. It's game. You know what? Matter of fact, I need to set up a show where we talk about the game. All right? Like, man, it's a lot of game out here. And by the way, it's called game because often we get caught up in the game. And the best way to not get caught up in the game is to understand the game from people. And maybe I'll get a few brothers in here. I think we probably need a sister. And we talk about the game. It's going to make brothers mad because I understood the game. You know who else understood the game? My wife. I should bring her in and we talk about the game. Okay? My wife understood the game from a female perspective. I understood the game from a male perspective. We both had game back in the day. Like, best believe. Like, we together because we want to be together. Anyway, Pam already said it. She'll be on that show. We'll talk about the game. There's a lot of games out here. And men got to look out for the game. And women definitely have to look out the game. Ernest Fenton, what? Do not call me for the game. Okay. Do not. You don't want to be on a game show, bro? Anyway, we got to go. Hey, man, 7 steps to creating a healthy, loving, long-lasting relationship. Share the stream if it made a difference for you. Folks, this conversation mattered. It matters. All right? Until next week, God bless you all. You've been listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host and life coach, Lionel Harris, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. Be blessed. Cam on the stream. That's how I got Linnell. My game. Man. Look, Cam got game. That ain't how she got me. Okay? She got me from across the room when I saw her. That's how she got me. And then I went in for the kill. You best believe that. All right, you guys. Take care of yourself. God bless all you all. Share the stream if you enjoyed it. Until next time.